So if you'd like to know why some wines become valedictorians and others become the boys of summer school, someone finally made a video for you. This is Pocket Wine School. Hi, I'm Tommy from Pocket Wine School, and right now we're talking about wine scores, what they are, when they're useful, and also when they're not. But first, if you are feeling friendly, leave a thumbs up like down below. And if you'd like new videos every week to help make you more wine savvy, subscribe to this channel. Now, let's rank some rankings, shall we? The oldest evidence of winemaking tools come from the country of Georgia and date back around 8,000 years. The process of scoring wine using a numerical system is essentially just as old, debuting the same year that Susanna Hoffs, the lead singer of the Bangles, was born. And if you aren't a card-carrying member of the Bangles fan club, that year was 1959. Those original wine scores were not designed to inflate bottle prices through the use of a shiny silver sticker. Instead, they were developed by enologists at UC Davis, the premier academic wine school in the US. This was a 20-point system designed to evaluate wines academically based on their technical aspects, partly on things like color and flavor, but also partly on structure, acidity, and composition. Wine scores were not, however, an instant success. That didn't come until roughly the time that disco was giving way to new wave, and famed critic, wine advocate founder, and general number fan Robert Parker took the 1970s K-12 standardized grading system and applied it to a beverage that, elegant though it is, can technically be made in an old pickle bucket. There is the 20-point system, which starts at 12 and is therefore technically an 8-point system, and the 100-point system, which starts at 50 and is therefore technically a 50-point system, are the two systems that are used mostly by serious wine professionals. Other more simplified systems include the 5-star rating system, the 5 wine glass rating system, and the 5 martini olive system used by critics who walked into the wrong bar. In the case of 100-point scales, the system's usually pretty simple to understand. Let's take a look at Wine Spectator's 100-point grading scale. 50 to 74 are for wines that are not recommended, which is presumably also the case for wines that score under 50. So wines from 0 to 74 can be lumped together under the single word no. 74 to 79 is mediocre, drinkable but with minor flaws. If you're thinking this is where Sutter Home White Zinfandel would be, you'd be entirely wrong. The 2017, 18, and 19 vintages of Sutter Home White Zinfandel all received 90 points, plus gold and double gold medals from several reputable authorities. Safe to say then that 74 to 79 is probably the territory of some of the finer correctional facilities. 80 to 84 is for wines classified as good, and 85 to 89 is for very good wines with special qualities. While to most people this would sound quite positive, in reality you will see very few wines bearing an 87 points sticker. Apparently, very good but with special qualities is still not quite good enough for wine drinkers who have that special set of skills that it takes to download the Vivino app on their phone. Only at 90 and above do winemakers start to advertise their scores. 90 to 94 is outstanding, of superior quality, which, remember, is the score given to Sutter Home White Zinfandel 3 vintages in a row. 95 to 100 is reserved for wines that are destined to become classics. This is important because human beings are able to predict future trends with 100% accuracy. This is why we're still talking about the Best Picture winners, How Green Was My Valley, Around the World in 80 Days, and Crash, instead of their forgotten runner-ups, Citizen Kane, The Ten Commandments, and Brokeback Mountain. If it sounds like I'm being mean to wine scores, it's only because I myself have never received a 100-point score for one of my wines. To be fair, I've only made 2 wines in my life. One was a semi-decent cab, and the other was a Merlot that I ended up using as paint thinner. Nonetheless, wine scores can actually be useful. That's right. That little silver sticker whose glint of light temporarily blinds you to all of the other less desperate bottles on the shelf can actually help you make some good choices, as long as they're accompanied by a brief note from the reviewer about why. Think about it. If your child comes home with a 78 on their report card, you have the right to ask that teacher why that 78 was given. Now, you don't have license to bully the teacher into changing your child's grade, because that only teaches the child that its parents are also somehow toddlers. But you as a parent are not wrong to ask for the rubric the teacher used to arrive at that score, and to ask if all of the wines were judged according to the same rubric. You can also ask if the wines were tasted blind. Many of the reputable magazines do taste their wines blind, such as Wine Spectator and Wine Enthusiast, as well as Wine Advocate and Cat Fancy. So if you have these tools in hand, a wine score and some brief, well-written tasting notes, you should be better informed to make your decision. Slightly better informed. In other words, you can take the scores with a grain of that salt you're supposed to find in Albarino. And to explain why, I'd like to talk about Pepsi. I'm going to put aside here the usual complaint about taste being subjective. No matter how you feel about a particular artistic piece, it is disingenuous to say that you therefore can't evaluate it objectively. I've seen the movie Back to School more times than I've seen The Godfather. But if someone were to argue that Francis Ford Coppola's magnum opus is therefore less artistically successful than Rodney Dangerfield's magnum opus, then I would argue that that person no longer has the right to publicly opine. So, Pepsi. Malcolm Gladwell writes in his excellent book Blink about the Pepsi Challenge, that 1980s focus group extravaganza where tasters were given a small amount of Pepsi and a small amount of Coca-Cola to taste blind. Surprisingly, Pepsi, almost always the underdog, came out on top. It was such a disaster that Coke actually changed its formula to become more like Pepsi, which was even more of a disaster, so they changed it back. Allegedly. But Coke still outsells Pepsi to this day. Why is that? Because when you taste a small amount of those two beverages, the slightly sweeter, punchier Pepsi takes the prize. But when it comes to drinking down a can of the stuff, or in America's case, a 32-ounce styrofoam goblet of it, Coke always wins the day. Now, what does this have to do with wine? Because wine tasters don't taste wine under the same conditions in which you drink it. They don't take it out to dinner with some friends. They don't have it with food. They don't steal it from their folks' liquor cabinet and then go drink it under the bleachers and play spin the bottle when it's done. I assume. Nope. It's small amounts taken in, evaluated, spat out, and then repeated 99 more times with 99 different wines. It's not that these experts are hacks. The best ones have the most refined palates on the planet. All the stuff your wine snob old college roommates pretends that he can smell, the experts can actually smell it, and can evaluate all of the wine's structural palate characteristics like it's their job, because, it is. But you have to remember that they're not tasting like you do or like I do. It's a very specialized setting. So take the wine scores for what they are. A good-hearted attempt to help standardize the evaluation process, and then something for producers and marketers to use to help their products stand out from the crowd. But that doesn't mean that a wine scoring a 99 from the San Bernardino Enophile Wine Collective is necessarily the right wine for you. And that's it for wine scores. If you have thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, or if you have a tattoo of Robert Parker on the small of your back, please share it down in the comments below. And as always, rock out with your corks out.